QTV News, the headlines. President Edgar Lungu has maintained that there is no tension in the country, but acts of terrorism intended to intimidate him. And the United States government says dialogue is a solution to the current political difficulties Zambia is facing. With the news in detail, my name is Chitalu Chinsenge. President Edgar Lungu has not ruled out nighttime curfews in specific areas following the evocation of Article 31 of the Republican Constitution, which guides how a nation should deal with an existing situation, which, if allowed to continue, may lead to a state of public emergency. Addressing a media briefing at State House today, President Lungu says government will make regulations in accordance with the invoked power to regulate the conduct of certain people, but was quick to assure the public that the evocation of Article 31 is not meant to harass people or perceived opponents in the political arena, but curb the ever-growing lawlessness seen in the recent past. He notes that while there is a danger that the invoked power can be abused, he will ensure that the Zambian people are protected against any excessions on the part of those equipped with executive authority in the execution of protection of the public good. President Lungu says if anyone is injured in the process, they will have the liberty to go to court. He states that the police will have added powers such as to stop and search, question and determine certain people. President Lungu adds that under the invoked power, police will be able to detain people beyond the lawful 48 hours without charge. President Lungu has also stated that the National Assembly will determine how long the invoked power will last. Meanwhile, President Lungu has maintained that there is no tension in the country, but acts of terrorism intended to intimidate him to revisit the decision of the electorate in the 2016 elections. President Lungu says the theory is to put pressure on the government so that the outcome of the 2016 election can be renegotiated, which he says cannot happen. He says what is happening in the country is a systematic approach by the opposition to stampede government into talks for a power-sharing arrangement. President Lungu says the results of the 2016 elections cannot be revisited as the opposition would want with a view of a power-sharing arrangement. The United States government says positive dialogue is a solution to the current political difficulties Zambia is facing. Speaking during the commemoration of the American National Day, which falls on 4th July in Lusaka, outgoing United States Ambassador to Zambia, Eric Schutz, says the U.S. regrets the divide that has emerged among Zambians and the way it has affected international perceptions of the country. Mr. Schutz says at this moment, dialogue, reconciliation, and respect for due process and civil rights are more important than ever. He states that Zambia has come too far and has too far yet to go in its development to sacrifice the needs and rights of many for a narrow political interest of a few. Mr. Schutz has since appealed to Zambians to reconcile with one another politically so that the country may move forward to a bright and prosperous future. And Mr. Schutz has disclosed that Zambia is one of the 10 largest recipients of United States humanitarian assistance at over 500 million United States dollars annually. He has since pledged the United States commitment to continue working for Zambia's bright and prosperous future.
Let me, on behalf of the United States, appeal again for Zambians to reconcile with one another politically, so that the country may move forward together to a bright and prosperous future. We regret the divide that has emerged among Zambians and the way that it has affected international perceptions of the country. At this juncture, dialogue, reconciliation, and respect for due process and civil rights are more important than ever. We call on all Zambians, no matter what political affiliation, no matter what ethnicity, to exercise restraint and engage in positive dialogue to resolve the country's political difficulties. We call upon all Zambians to preserve and to protect Zambia's reputation for democracy, its reputation for peace, its reputation for civility. July 4th is a celebration of democracy and its virtues. We Americans believe that it is the one system of government that can best promote a country's development because it is the one form of government that derives its authority from the will of the people. The United States is a friend of Zambia and of Zambians. I believe our actions over the years have proven that time and time again. And as a friend, we want the best for this country.
And officiating at the event, Transport and Communications Minister Brian Mushimba reaffirmed government's commitment to upholding bilateral ties with the United States government. Mr. Mushimba says the two governments will continue working together in sharing democratic principles and for the sake of enhancing political, economic and social benefits.
Based on a long history of shared friendship between our countries, the United States of America continues to be one of Zambia's most important and strategic development partners. Our two countries have continued to work closely and promote economic growth and development, as well as bring about political reforms by promoting democratic principles and responsible governance. It therefore our ardent hope and desire that these ties will continue to flourish under the new leadership of President Trump through increased interaction on political, social, and economic issues for the mutual benefit of our two countries and peoples. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to highlight the close collaboration between Zambia and the United States of America, which has, over the past years, resulted in enhanced economic and technical cooperation. Our two countries have continued to enhance partnership in sectors such as agriculture, health, basic education, democratic governance, as well as water and sanitation through the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, which has immensely contributed to the development and sustainability of Zambia's economy.
Finance Minister Felix Motati is optimistic that the country's economy will remain resilient even with the security measures announced by President Edgar Lungu. Mr. Motati has told journalists that the proclamation by President Lungu was made in pursuit that the country continues to protect the lives and well-being of the people as a basis to grow the economy and secure investment. Mr. Motati has explained that if no stringent steps are taken to bring back sanity in the country, economic growth will be disturbed. He states that government is committed to upholding the constitution as a basis for good economic governance. Mr. Motati has since reiterated that the country will achieve the 4.3% GDP target in 2017.
It's a positive move. When you have an economy that is captured by uncertainty because of what is happening, you've got to take decisive action to correct even economic fundamentals. So for us, as government, we are saying people first, and they're the ones that are going to drive economic activities. We see that the economy will still remain resilient. We see that the focus that we have got for ourselves for GDP of 4.3, we'll be able to achieve it this year. Today, the exchange rate still remains stable. The inflation still remains sound. So I think we have done the correct thing. And the correct thing is also that the matter will be taken to Parliament for debate. And finally, it's Parliament that's going to pass a decision. So we're following the Constitution to the letter.
Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says his ministry has no intention of issuing any license to allow the cultivation of marijuana for medical purposes. Dr. Chilufya has told Parliament in a ministerial statement that following a statement issued earlier this year by Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampiongo that the law provides for the cultivation of marijuana for medical purposes, his ministry has been overwhelmed with applications from people seeking licenses. Dr. Chilufya says despite the fact that marijuana can be used for medical purposes, his ministry has no intentions at the moment to issue marijuana cultivation licenses due to its impact on human wealth and social areas. He explains that while marijuana is used for chronic pain conditions, nausea patients, epilepsy and other common conditions, there are other drugs available on the market that can treat the same ailments that medical marijuana can treat. He says these are even safer compared to using medical marijuana. Dr. Chilufya says there is no good and convincing reason why the government can give out marijuana cultivation licenses when there are other alternatives to using medical marijuana.
Allow me to illustrate the potential impact of further loosening the product controls that are in place to curtail free availability of cannabis as may result from allowing cultivation in Zambia. 1. Marijuana consists of over 400 chemicals, including many toxic psychoactive chemicals, whose long-term effects on the human remain largely unstudied. It would be irresponsible and medically unethical to allow for such toxic substances to be administered to Zambians under the guise that the Ministry of Health has allowed it. Long-term use of marijuana can lead to addiction. This can be highly detrimental to our quest to have a nation of healthy and productive people that contribute to the growth of our nation and aspiration for a prosperous middle-income country by the year 2030. Furthermore, there are a number of patients that we have admitted to our psychiatric institutions, and the cause is marijuana-induced. Addiction to marijuana is a gateway to the use of other more potent and highly dangerous drugs such as heroin and cocaine. These drugs have been indisputably linked to organized crime and money laundering, apart from destroying many lives.
The opposition National Restoration Party, NAREP, says had President Edgar Lungu recognized and acknowledged that there was political tension in the country, the situation could have been diffused in time. NAREP spokesperson Walia Nondo has told QTV News in an interview that his party even wrote letters to President Lungu and the UPND asking the two parties to come to terms with what was prevailing in the country. Mr. Nondo notes that the heads of state has on several occasions refused to accept that there is a political tension in the country. He has wondered why the president has now taken strict security measures if there is no tension in the country. Mr. Nondo says NAREP feels there is a need for an agent political endeavor before things spiral out of control. He states that avoiding dialogue or any other formidable form of engagement will not help resolve the political situation in the country.
We as a party, way back before elections, we saw tension and we wrote to the PF. In fact, direct to the president himself. We wrote to President Hakainde Hichilema to really try and bring these people together, because we know and we still believe that this confusion is because the two cannot really sit down and make sure that harmony prevails. The bishops have tried to do so, but the president has been so adamant to say there's no tension in the country. Those people that are talking about tension, they are just imagining tension in their own heads. But this is where we are right now. If the president, had the president accepted earlier that there's tension in the country, we wouldn't have been here. We wouldn't have been seeing all these things, because solution would have been found in the earliest possible time.
The Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, CSPR, has advised stakeholders making submissions towards the 2018 national budget to first identify their key areas of interest and understand the budgeting process before making submissions. Speaking during a media capacity building workshop on budget and policy analysis, jointly organized by CSPR, USAID, and Counterpart International, CSPR Executive Director Patrick Nshindano says it is important to first identify the gaps in the budget process before any submissions are made in order to convince government in allocating resources to specific areas. Mr. Nshindano says there should be no lapses in the submissions made, adding that they have to be aligned to the 7th National Development Plan. He says next year's budget should be centered on poverty reduction so that it is responsive to the needs of society. He states that the budget has now become so critical due to the challenges the country is facing. Meanwhile, Mr. Shindano has noted that social accountability is one of the weaknesses the country has been faced with, urging government to provide the necessary oversight so that they do not stray away from that which is budgeted for.
Meeting will be engageful, but also be able to identify certain gaps that we can identify within the budgetary process and influence the 2018 budget, specifically to align to the 7th NDP. But also for us specifically, we have the bias towards poverty reduction so that it is responsive to the needs of society and not just have a budget. But in looking at the needs of society, the budget has become very critical at this point in time. If you look at the current challenges we're facing, which is the fiscal deficit, the high debt levels, all have to do with budget management. And social accountability is one of those weaknesses that the country has had to be able to provide the necessary oversight on the part of government so that they do not stray away from that which is budgeted for. In 2016, out of budget allocations were as high as over 20%. So when you have a budget as high as out of budget expenditure as high as over 20% of your annual budget, that is as good as having another budget, because it basically goes beyond the threshold allowed for supplementary budgets. And we're hoping that as the media and civil society gets enlightened on the budgetary process, we can provide the necessary safeguards and well play our role, watchdog role, but also be able to ensure that some of these things, as we are getting into a red flag zone, we can flag them and ensure that government does the right thing. Meeting.
The Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD, has commended government for taking an aggressive approach facilitating the smooth export of maize and sugar to Kenya. Kenya has factored in a 20% reduction in its maize yields due to the erratic rainfall and armyworms that had ravaged the country's maize fields, with maize yields this year projected to 4 to 27 million bags, down from 37 million bags harvested during last year's farming season. CTPD Acting Executive Director Isaac Mwaipopo has told QTV News that beyond reaching out to Kenya, there is need for further strict measures to ensure that the commodity reaches Kenya in due course due to the challenges posed by its geographic position. Mr. Mwaipopo has since encouraged government to engage to Tanzania to facilitate the easy flow of the commodities into Kenya. The Young African Leaders Initiative has called on government to ensure the upgraded hospitals around the country are adequately staffed with human resource. Yali Governance Advisor Isaac Mwanza has noted with concern how the upgraded hospitals are offering poor service to patients. Mr. Mwanza says patients are still spending long hours in queues at the upgraded hospitals because of inadequate human resource. He has stated that it would be better for the government to spend money on recruiting more health personnel rather than using funds to upgrade hospitals and clinics, which are ending up being understaffed and offering poor service to patients.
We believe that it is good to continue to build these clinics and level 1 hospitals, upgrading the hospital to level 1. But what is missing really is that we are not building the human capacity to ensure that people are adequately attended to. People have to queue for as long as 6-7 hours. You are still not attended to doctors. You can go to maternal reference clinic. You can go to Chilenje level 1 hospital. All these level 1 hospitals, they are still operating as clinics. And so, what is the difference between the time that they were clinics and now that they're hospitals? Because they have the same staff. If you are going to have 6 medical staff at a hospital, attending to so many people that are coming, and you're saying, oh, this is a hospital, I think we're not doing justice. So as much as we want to commend government for the infrastructure development, we need to invest so much into the health sector. We need to ensure that we have adequate staff, adequate medical doctors. Chingwere Clinic or Chingwere Maternal Reference, whatever you call it, level 1 hospital, it is understaffed. Go to Chilenje, it's understaffed. Every other clinic in this country is understaffed. and yet government continues to spend monies on building infrastructure. It is better to have a few limited clinics that are very efficient than you have so many dotted around that are simply white elephants. We think that it is not the way to go. So can we ensure that even as we have launched this 7th National Development Plan, we should focus much more on the human resource part and not on the infrastructure development?
The Zambia National Women's Lobby, ZNWL, has implored government to allocate more resources to social sectors as the Ministry of Health. ZNWL Executive Director Juliet Chibuta has told QTV News that government should ensure that the social sectors are given priority during the budget formulation process as they favor women and children. She points out that if the health sector is prioritized, the country will experience even further reductions in child and maternal mortality. Ms. Chibuta has since called for the restructuring of the budget process to provide for gender mainstreaming. She has, however, hailed the Gender Ministry's efforts in inculcating gender budgeting in all the ministries. Ms. Chibuta has also urged governments to ensure that small-scale women farmers in the country receive a fair share of the farming inputs through the e-voucher. She says women in the country account for about 80% of the small-scale farmers, and hence the need for them to be given priority.
Mainly by civil society, and now the Ministry of Gender is getting an interest in it by training the different ministries in the process. So the rationale for gender budgeting arises from the recognition of the fact that national budgets impact on men and women differently through the pattern of resource allocation. There are certain areas of the different ministries. When you put more money there, you see the example that I've picked as what has worked in Zambia. When you put more money in that ministry, you find that the lives of women are improving. And when you reduce money in that area, you find that the lives of women are affected. Mainly by
the Professional Teachers Union of Zambia, PROTUS, has attributed the high rate of absenteeism during examinations by grade 9 and 7 pupils in the country to a number of factors, including early marriage. According to Examination Council of Zambia statistics, 64,294 grade 9 pupils absented themselves from exams in 2015, while 39,160 grade 7 pupils did not sit for their exams in the same year. In 2016, 47,300 grade 9 pupils absconded from exams, with 34,632 grade 7 pupils staying away from exams. PROTUS General Secretary Kangwa Msenga says some of the factors include lack of preparedness by learners, early marriage, and relocation. Mr. Msenga notes that the absenteeism rate is higher in day schools compared to boarding schools. He says this is a national issue which requires all stakeholders to play a role in ensuring that pupils write their exams and progress in their education.
School authorities, especially in day schools, have lost a grip on the discipline of the children. There is a lot of exaggeration of human rights, children's rights, to the point that the school authorities are unable to send away children or punish the children because of absconding. Equally, the cancer of leakages at grade 9 has brought about failure to prepare the children psychologically for the exams. Equally, we have cases, isolated cases, of children drinking before they go for exams, getting married, early marriages. Both male and female students, we have cases of early marriages, which also contributes for the children thinking an exam is not important.
As we end the news, a recap of the headlines. President Edgar Lungu has maintained that there is no tension in the country, but acts of terrorism intended to intimidate him. The United States government says dialogue is a solution to the current political difficulties Zambia is facing. That's all we had for you in the news. For more news, you can visit www.qtvzambia.com. My name is Chitali Chinsenge. God bless.